Yes, I do believe that Donald Trump is unstable, increasingly unstable, and unfit to serve.
Who am I introducing next? Who's next?
What's up, everybody? It's your girl Micca, and we're back for another Red Cup Talks, because you know when we got the Red Cup, we're about to spill some truth. So today I wanted to come on and talk about Kamala Harris doing another town hall with CNN, okay? And when I tell you this was disastrous, I don't know why she keeps doing them. It's only 2 weeks left, ma'am. Just let it go, okay? But we're going to get right into it. Here we go.
And so the issue that you raise, yes, I do believe that Donald Trump is unstable, increasingly unstable, and unfit to serve. And I don't necessarily think that everyone has heard what you and I have heard repeatedly, which is the people who know Donald Trump best, the people who worked with him in the White House, in the Situation Room, in the Oval Office, all Republicans, by the way, who served in his administration, his former chief of staff, his national security advisor, former secretaries of defense, and his vice president have all called him unfit and dangerous.
Now, Donald Trump has made it very clear that he is not a Washington insider. So he put people around him that were not the best for him or the country. And so he said that one of the things that he would do better this time is to pick people that weren't necessarily just, recommended, but that actually wanted to do the will of the people and that were for the people. Because a lot of these presidents, to be honest, if you look at Barack Obama, he had all Goldman Sachs and hedge funders around him. Then the same with Kamala Harris. BlackRock is supporting her campaign right now. So I agree with Trump on that point. But to the second point that she just raised about him being unfit, ma'am, you told the world that Joe Biden was fit and then did a coup to get him out because he was unfit. Make it make sense. Let's get back into it.
They have said explicitly he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. They have said he should never again serve as president of the United States. We know that is why Mike Pence is not running with him again, why the job was empty. And then today we learned that John Kelly, a 4-star Marine general, who is his longest serving chief of staff, gave an interview recently in the last 2 weeks of this election, talking about how dangerous Donald Trump is, a 4-star Marine general. Why is he telling the American people now? And frankly, I think of it as he's just putting out a 911 call to the American people.
So, okay, we knew she was going to get into Trump derangement syndrome, and it didn't take long for it to start. 2 minutes in, we were in Trump derangement land. But she's not talking about what we expect her to talk about, but the people actually started to bring it up, which is her record and how she's doing in the polls with certain demographics. Well, we all know in the swing states, she's not doing good, okay? She's not doing good with a particular voter as well, Muslim voters, especially in Michigan. Take a look.
Let's head to Michigan now, another state which could be crucial in deciding who wins this presidential election. The latest polling averages from Decision Desk HQ show an incredibly tight race there, with former President Trump leading Vice President Harris by less than a point. Michigan is part of that blue wall that has been so important to Democrats, but now there are growing concerns among the party that Arab Americans and a third-party candidate could crack that wall.
And some of the polling numbers that we're seeing seem to support that. You look at this one study of Arab American voters, the former president actually edging Vice President Kamala Harris, 45 to 43, with Jill Stein back there, the Green Party candidate, in third, distantly. I would also bring your attention here to some of these communities that we see here in Michigan. There was a big push during the Democratic primary in protest of the war that's currently taking place overseas right now. Over 100,000 people here in Michigan voted uncommitted in protest of the war that's been ongoing. Well, the mayor of this community that we're in right here today actually endorsed former President Trump because of those concerns over the war overseas right now. That's something that's going to be very key to watch over the next couple of days to see exactly how this all shakes out electorally.
So you guys see that there. An Arab American mayor endorsed Donald Trump. And a lot of the Arab community are supporting third-party candidates like Jill Stein, right? So that definitely doesn't help Kamala Harris. And then you have the movement to never support Kamala Harris because of the war. Well, here on the CNN town hall, we had an Arab American ask Kamala just that about the war. Here we go.
She's registered with no party affiliation. She says she's a Democrat. She's leaning toward voting for you, but said she's yet to make her final decision in part because of the conflict in the Middle East. Annalise?
Thank you, and good evening, Madam Vice President.
Good evening.
My question is, as president, what would you do to ensure not another Palestinian dies due to bombs being funded by U.S. tax dollars?
So I will say, and I think this is to your point, far too many innocent Palestinian civilians have been killed. It's unconscionable. And we are now at a place where with Sinwar's death, I do believe we have an opportunity to end this war, bring the hostages home, bring relief to the Palestinian people, and work toward a two-state solution where Israel and the Palestinians in equal measure have security, where the Palestinian people have dignity, self-determination, and the safety that they so rightly deserve.
What do you say to voters who are thinking about supporting a third-party candidate or staying on the couch, not voting at all because of this issue?
Listen, I am not going to deny the strong feelings that people have. I don't know that anyone who has seen the images who would not have strong feelings about what has happened, much less those who have relatives who have died and been killed. And I know people and have talked with people. So I appreciate that. But I also do know that for many people who care about this issue, they also care about bringing down the price of groceries. They also care about our democracy and not having a president of the United States who admires dictators and is a fascist.
Okay, so I was going to give her a little credit for actually kind of directly answering a question for once, but then she got Trump derangement syndrome, and you can't have anything with the liberals without having Trump derangement syndrome. Just, you got to sprinkle it in there, right? But with that being said, she not only had a question about the Palestinian and Israeli war from the Muslim American side or the Arab American side, okay, she also had a question about the Israeli side. Take a look.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you for remembering we need to bring the hostages home.
Of course.
The rise of anti-Semitism and violence from anti-Semitism has risen greatly on college campuses and on our city streets in the last year. How would you combat this growing trend and protect our young adults?
Thank you, Beth. You are right, and I will say that we have seen a rise in anti-Semitism. It is something that we have to be honest about and we have to deal with. As Attorney General, I actually published a hate crimes report on a regular basis, and anti-Semitism was among the highest forms of hate in our country, and this was before October 7. And we know what we've seen since. Part of what we've got to do is talk with people so that they understand what are the tropes, what are the roots of what we are seeing, so that we can actually have people be more understanding. We need to have laws in place that make those who would commit crimes on behalf of anti-Semitism and hate, that they pay a serious consequence. We need to have the deterrence so that doesn't happen. We need to ensure that college students are safe in their school and feel safe to be able to go to class. But I'm going to tell you what doesn't help. Again, I invite you to listen and go online to listen to John Kelly, the former chief of staff of Donald Trump.
What did I tell you? It has to end with Trump derangement syndrome, okay? No matter the question, okay? Tomato, Trump. Tomato, Trump. Potatoes, Trump. It has to end with that, right? But the question that she was asked was about anti-Semitism. Okay. And she said that she would enact laws and consequences. Well, this will be the second time, she did an anti-Asian hate bill. So I'm sure she would do an anti-Semitic bill, right? The only bill that she hasn't come through is actually just Black, an anti-hate bill for Black people only. But of course, she's not going to ever do anything for Black people. No, she can't do that, right? So don't even worry about it. That's not going to happen. What I think the young lady that asked the question was really getting at is, are you going to deter children on college campuses and just people in the streets in general from not doing these type of rallies or these type of anti-Semitic protests? And the answer is no, because when she was in California, she actually participated in them. Watch this.
Education, down, down, deportation, up, with education, down, down, deportation, up, with education, down, down, deportation.
So as you saw there, down with deportation, up with education. That was when she was in California, okay? And she decided to go out to a mass deportation protest, okay? And she's supposed to be the border czar and everything right now. This is her record. She does not, agree with deporting illegal immigrants. She never has. And that's why it's inauthentic when she talks about these things. Okay. She's not going to stop protests because she goes to them. All right. Everything that isn't American, everything that is opposite, Kamala does. She flip-flops. However, she's inauthentic. And I was glad at the CNN town hall, a voter brought that up, that she's very inauthentic. Watch this.
Thank you.
Here in Delco, we pride ourselves on being authentic,
Yeah.
and much of what we have much of what you've been saying with regard to issues like law and order and fracking reflect a more centrist view than what people are used to hearing from Kamala Harris, leaving some voters to wonder about the authenticity of your current, more moderate positions. Can you talk a little bit about how your positions have shifted and why?
Sure, and thank you. So first of all, on fracking, I've been very clear. We kind of dispensed with this in 2020. I am not going to ban fracking. I did not as vice president. In fact, as vice president, I cast the tie-breaking vote that now has opened up more fracking leases. My value on the issue of what we need to do to invest in a clean energy economy and a clean energy future has not changed. But frankly, I now have the experience and perspective of having been vice president for almost 4 years. I've traveled the country. I know that we can invest in a clean energy economy and still not ban fracking and still work toward what we need to do to create more jobs and create US-based jobs in a way that will be globally competitive. On the issue of law and order, as you mentioned, I think there's just a whole lot of misinformation, to be honest with you. I have personally prosecuted very serious crime. It's how I started my career. I spent most of my career as a prosecutor, not in Washington, D.C. And as my first priority had and remains as a first priority to me, the safety of the American people. So that has not changed. And sadly, I think that there's a bit of misinformation, if not more than a bit. But I'm glad that you raised the subject so that I can address it.
She says that she spent majority of her time as a prosecutor and not in Washington. That's all fine and dandy. But you got to remember this. I just showed you that she was out there with illegal immigrants talking about down with deportation, up with education. That is something you're supposed to do as a prosecutor. Those people are here illegally. They are breaking the law, and she's marching with them and chanting with them. I don't think anybody believes you that you're hard on law, except when it comes to Black single mothers and Black men that you keep over their time. But I digress.
Just if you don't mind, just let me just finish. Because I think the spirit of your question is really important, and I'm glad you raised it. Our country deserves to have a president of the United States who is not afraid of good ideas and does not stand on pride. If a perspective needs to be informed by different points of view to build consensus. and to have a common sense approach. I'm never going to shy away from good ideas. And I'm not going to feel the need to have pride associate with a position that I've taken when the important thing is to build
Ma'am, you shied away from Donald Trump's policies that protected the border. That was a good idea. That was law, and you revoked them. What is she talking about? All that word salad. There she goes again.
consensus to fix problems. I believe in fixing problems. I love fixing problems. And so I pledge to you to be a president who not only works for all Americans, but works on getting stuff done. And that means compromise. And it doesn't mean compromising your values or your principles, but it does mean working to get stuff done. And I pledge to you, I will do that.
Just to be clear, though, what he's referring to, and you point out to when you're running for vice president in 2020, you were not talking about banning fracking, but
No, Anderson, I pledge that I would not ban fracking.
right, I know you said
Yeah.
you would not ban fracking.
Correct.
You had said in the 2019 town hall, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. In 2017, you talked about Medicare for all. You talked about 2019, you raised a hand in debate about if border crossings should be decriminalized. Are all of those issues, which those are not your positions now, are all those issues that you're saying through consensus and getting stuff done, you have evolved on?
Well, no, let's take, for example, the issue of Medicare. My point has always been that access to healthcare should not just be a privilege of those who can afford it. It should be a right for all people. So that is why I have worked on doing what we have done to, one, allow Medicare to negotiate against the big pharmaceutical companies to bring down the cost of prescription medication. We've achieved that in terms of capping the cost of insulin for seniors at $35 a month, capping the cost of annual prescriptions at $2,000 a year for seniors. But my plan moving forward, based on that very principle that I've always had, is as president to have that cap be for everyone and not just for our seniors.
You see how they get away with so much because it goes unchecked. Okay, ma'am, Donald Trump actually did all of this and you revoked all of it. Okay, Donald Trump made it easier for you to negotiate your medical expenses. The doctor has to, by law, okay, until she revoked it. But by law, the doctor had to show you how much everything was going to cost so you can go and negotiate different prices and go to different doctors, okay? Lowering the prescription drug costs and taking it out of the hands of the bureaucrats. Donald Trump did that. Don't believe me? Here it is.
To address this unfairness and to lower prices for Americans, we're finalizing the most favored nation rule. Remember that name, most favored nation rule. Nobody's ever done this. The drug companies don't like me too much, but we had to do it. It took a long time before we were able to do this because statutorily we had to go through a process, but there'll never be anything like this. I just hope they keep it. I hope they have the courage to keep it because the powerful drug lobby, Big Pharma, is putting pressure on people like you wouldn't believe. Medicare will now look at the price that other developed nations pay for their drugs. And instead of paying the highest price on the list, and we are substantially higher than any other country in the world, we will pay the lowest price. In other words, we take the lowest price and we match whatever the lowest price is, leading to colossal savings for all Americans. And we're talking about savings of 50, 60, 70%, 80%. Different drugs, different prices. A very strong foundation of what we're doing and what we're all about. So it's very important. Together, we're taking power away from bureaucrats. We're taking it away from insurance companies and away from special interests. We're giving that power back to patients, and we're giving Americans the right to know. So we have the right to try, and now we have the right to know, and the right to negotiate, and the right to pick your own doctor, and the right to get great prices. And other than that, what can I tell you? Can't do better than that.
So as you saw there, she touts doing all of this stuff for lowering prescription costs. Donald Trump had already did it. All right. And there's footage of it. Like they act like, just like Charlamagne said on the Breakfast Club, they act like we don't have, TV. They act like we don't have the internet. Yeah, we have it. And Donald Trump did it first. He lowered the cost of prescriptions. He lowered the cost of Medicare. And then he turned around and said that you have to show them what the bill is. You have to show the American people how much you're charging for it. And the insurance companies did not like that. The insurance companies did not like what Donald Trump was imposing on them. So go figure that when the bureaucrats got back in office with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they just revoked it and then turned around and used it for their own political gain. Okay, so no, Madam VP, you did not do anything. Per usual.
He's a registered Republican who says he's undecided, doesn't agree with your stance on abortion, but he is concerned about what he calls Trump's demeanor and actions on January 6th.
Joe?
Thank you, Madam Vice President, and thank you, Anderson. Madam Vice President, everybody as human beings, we're not perfect. We have our flaws. We make mistakes. We have our weaknesses. And the office of the presidency can sometimes bring those weaknesses out in ways that the incumbent may not expect. What weaknesses do you bring to the table, and how do you plan to overcome them while you're in office?
That's a great question, Joe. Well, I am certainly not perfect. So let's start there. And I think that perhaps a weakness, some would say, but I actually think it's a strength, is I really do value having a team of very smart people around me who bring to my decision-making process different perspectives. My team will tell you, I am constantly saying, let's kick the tire on that. Let's kick the tires on it. Because as I mentioned earlier, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a courtroom prosecutor. I've tried everything from low-level offenses to homicides. And I learned at a very early stage of my career and adult life that my actions have a direct impact on real people in a very fundamental way. When I was Attorney General of California, I was Attorney General of what is the 5th largest economy in the world, and acutely aware that my words could move markets. So I take my role and responsibility as an elected leader very seriously, and I know the impact it has on so many people I may never meet. And that is why I engage and bring folks around. So I may not be quick to have the answer as soon as you ask it about a specific policy issue sometimes, because I'm going to want to research it. I'm going to want to study it. I'm kind of a nerd sometimes, I confess. And some might call that a weakness, especially if you're, in an interview or just kind of, being asked a certain question and you're expected to have the right answer right away. But that's how I work.
That wasn't the question. I don't know. I'm lost. Like I had something right here and I lost it because Kamala never answers the question. And then she tries to turn it into this, I like to research, I'm a nerd. I like to research, I'm a nerd, okay? That has nothing to do with my weaknesses and how I will overcome them. How will you overcome them, ma'am? In that word salad, I'm lost. Sometimes in these reactions and these videos, you kind of, just go off the cuff. And I was just looking at that and I'm just like, ma'am, what are you talking about? Back into it.
I don't think I've ever heard the former president admit a mistake. A lot of politicians don't. Is there something you can point to in your life, political life, or in your life in the last 4 years that you think is a mistake that you have learned from?
I mean, I've made many mistakes.
Clearly.
And they range from, if you've ever parented a child, you make lots of mistakes too. In my role as vice president, I've probably worked very hard at making sure that I am well versed on issues, and I think that is very important. It's a mistake not to be well versed on an issue and feel compelled to answer a question.
Anderson tried to save her. Okay, Anderson tried. He tried. Now he has been a little tough, but he tried to save her, and she didn't catch it. Okay. And oh, well, you know, if you ever had kids, ma'am, what does that have to do with admitting mistakes that you've done as a vice president? Okay. If you want to look at Hurricane Helene, that was a mistake. How you handled that and went to a ball or a campaign fundraiser instead of actually going to hurricane victims, taking a week to get down there. That was a mistake. Okay. You can talk about that. You could talk about maybe a mistake was taking all of Trump's border policies off. That was a mistake because it allowed for more than 10 million illegal immigrants, some of which are murderers and all types of other stuff. Some we don't even know. 300,000 kids gone. Those are mistakes. How do you not answer this question? Why? It's because of what she said earlier. Her pride. Her pride won't allow her to admit that she made a mistake because she is the incumbent and she knows that can be used against her if she admits it. So she omits. She goes around the question and say, well, it's a mistake not to take advice. So are you not taking advice? Because the question was, what mistakes have you done? Yeah, clearly you're not taking advice because the advice would have been, do not take off Trump's remain in Mexico policy because everybody will be running over the border like they are now with this caravan.
A caravan of over 2,000 migrants, it's making its way north from Mexico, adding fuel to the already fiery debate over immigration. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump hold vastly different views on how to handle the border crisis, and both are using this moment to define their campaigns. Fearing Donald Trump's return to the White House, more migrants are making a dash for the United States in hopes of getting in before any reprisals from a possible second Trump administration. Here's our story with more as we track the large caravan of migrants headed to the U.S. border.
In just 2 weeks, the United States will decide its next leader. But even as campaign rallies roar and candidates vie for votes, another group is racing towards the border. Over 2,000 migrants are fleeing Mexico's southern edge, hoping to make it to the U.S., anticipating a shift in the political winds.
Whoever wins in the United States election should not close the doors to us, should give us the support we need because we are all really going through a bad time, not just us. Many people, we are going for a better future for our families who are in Venezuela under a regime.
Their journey, driven by desperation and the hope of a better life, has become a poignant symbol of what's at stake in the upcoming election.
Right over. They anticipate Trump winning because of the border crisis. They understand that that is an issue, but they also understand the advantages of being able to walk over into America and just get free stuff. So, I mean, it's not their fault we have politicians that are doing this. So I understand it. But at the end of the day, it's illegal. Lock them up, leave them in Mexico, and vet them. If they are seeking asylum, vet them properly to get them in. But Harris will not admit this. Harris will sit there and tell you that her only mistake is maybe not listening to some advice from her advisors. Well, I assure you, some of that advice from her advisors was not to take off all of Donald Trump's border policies and even others on healthcare. But she did it anyway. Again, it's another town hall that Kamala bombed. Okay, she definitely bombed this, and it's just beyond me why she keeps doing these, especially this close to the election, because she thinks it's getting the voters to know her. Honestly, it's just getting the voters to understand that she's definitely not qualified, and she's the one that's really unfit to lead. However, I could be wrong. So like, comment, and subscribe. Get down in the comments. Let me know, hey, did you think Kamala did a great job at this town hall? She, by golly, just did the thing. Or did you think what I thought is trash per usual, word salad per usual, and we learned nothing per usual? Get down in the comments. Let me know. You can always support me. Cash App, $ officially Micca, MICCA. As always, thank you for watching. It's your girl Micca. Watch one of my videos here. And I'm out. Peace.